Welcome to Unleash Your Light with Luz. Today's conversation is one that I know so many of you will resonate with because if you've ever walked into a room full of people and wondered, how do I actually make meaningful conversations here? Well, friend, you're not alone. Networking can feel intimidating, awkward, and honestly exhausting when it feels like you're just collecting business cards or trying to prove yourself. But what if networking wasn't about validation and instead it was about leverage? Today, I'm joined by Lea White, business strategist, speaker, and founder of the Exchange VIP. Lea helps entrepreneurs build intentional relationships that actually move their business forward. Through her Starting 5 relationship framework, she teaches women how to create powerful circles of connection that lead to real opportunities and consistent revenue. But before we dive into her strategies, we're also going to talk about the story behind the woman, because that's what I love to do, right? Her upbringing, the experiences that shaped her, and how she stepped into the work that she's doing today. If you're a woman building something meaningful and you want to learn how to walk into rooms with confidence, build relationships that matter, and truly own your positioning, well, friend, this conversation is for you. So let's dive in. Lea, welcome to Unleash Your Light. How are
Thank
you
you so
today?
much. I am super excited to be here. I have been watching you, and I just think that this is a great opportunity to share how I can help.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited for this conversation because I think that it's something that so many women, whether they have a business or not, in corporate, it doesn't matter. I think walking into rooms and kind of knowing what you're going to do, and the power and the strength that you bring to that, right, I think is so important. But before we talk about all the amazing things you're going to teach us today, I would love for you to go back to your upbringing. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what experiences shaped the woman and leader that you are today.
Well, thank you. I grew up in New York. I'm a city girl by trade. My parents and I lived in Queens for a very long time. And then eventually my mom decided to relocate to Albany, New York, where I got to see two different sides. So I was kind of like the city mouse and the country mouse. I learned how to ride a horse. I learned how to ski. I learned how to do all those things. And then in my teenage years, my mom decided to move back to Long Island, which was a balance between the two. I got a lot of exposure as a young child to so many different diverse groups between my mother's um, profound business acumen and then my dad also being in sales. And so the two of them kind of built this strategy around me that being in the right place at the right time was important, and how you made relationships and how you treated people was of value. So as that progressed, I went to college, and in my first semester of college, I found out that I was pregnant. And so I became a teen mom at the age of 18. And my entire life was the focus of how do I provide and use the skill set that I have to make sure my daughter was okay. And so that was a big journey, and that brought me into corporate America. And corporate America is definitely one that demands a lot of time. So I may not have been to all of the soccer games and all of the shows and all of the plays, but I definitely learned how to get into the right rooms, how to make conversation, and that the expectation of what we think those environments should be is really not all that we think it is. And I took that. I worked in real estate for 25 plus years. I have written my name in the New York skyline. I've closed 10 buildings there and moved to Maryland so my daughter could
Wow.
attend Morgan State University, where she's an alumna. And she has graduated. And now I take what I know from being in those elite rooms and bringing it to women so they can knock down those doors and be in those rooms themselves.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I had no idea we had so much in common. I knew that there was something there, this connection, but I am a Queens girl too.
Hey, that's right. Queens come from
Yes,
Queens,
yes,
baby.
yes, definitely. Well, that definitely is an incredible story. Because like you said, you went to college and then you got pregnant at 18. Now, where did you find the confidence and the strength to say, you know what, I'm not going to let this define me and I'm going to continue pushing through?
At the time when I was a teenager, teen pregnancy was common. It wasn't like now, they don't want to have kids till they're 50. But teen pregnancy when I was a teenager was very common. And my friends were pregnant. I was pregnant. It was kind of like a thing that was happening during those kind of 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
But the stigma about being a teenage mother was also just as profound. It didn't matter that I wasn't 20. It mattered that I was unmarried. It mattered that I didn't have a career. What was I going to do? Work at McDonald's my whole life? Those kind of things
Yeah.
were really what was etched in stone. And my mother wasn't unsupportive, but she knew that I had changed the trajectory of my life at that point. I think that I didn't want to be your stereotypical person. I didn't want to be the person who had a teenage baby and the expectation was I was going to go on welfare. Somebody's going to take care of me and my child. No, I had received a lot of great gifts as a child of my own experience, and I wanted my daughter to supersede that. So that didn't require me to have anything but strength and determination that what was said about me could not be true.
Yeah,
So
definitely. So you went into corporate and you also went into real estate, which I think sounds incredible. So, but was there a specific moment in your life, in your career, that you realized relationships and networking weren't just social, that they were strategic? And what shifted for you?
So as I had positions in corporate America, I started to wait for these moments of boardroom meetings, the coffee, the sit downs, the Godfather conversations. And what I realized is that I made more appointments for golf. I made more appointments for intimate dinners. I made more appointments for plays. And I was like, this is not work. This is fun. What are you guys doing? How are you having these conversations? And then I was introduced to the fact that a lot of decision making and a lot of strategic conversations do not happen in an office. They don't happen in a boardroom. They don't happen where you expect them to happen. They happen genuinely through relationship
Yeah.
and the ask that we have to have. So it changed a lot of things for me because my office was no longer just the place where I did business. My office was a place where I did research, where I was strategic and where I was smart, and the world was where I did business. And once that shifted for me, opportunities were endless.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because I think that is so true and that's something that social events are super important for us, right? That's where you make those connections, right? And it's the same thing for multimillionaires and billionaires, right? Like that's how they're not making new connections in offices and boardrooms like you said, right? They're doing it golfing, they're doing it at events, social events, right?
There's a lot more conversation that doesn't happen in regular places. I mean, a lot of conversations, many people have a stigma against a Panera meeting or a Starbucks meeting, but multi-million dollar business is happening while you're ordering your coffee, while you're getting that
Yep.
extra, cookie. Multi-billion dollar conversations are happening because people come in with an intention and they're not just looking to make friends or go to a social event. Networking, like you said, or even those conversations are strategic. You don't just walk into a room, who's in that room? So that's where a lot of that conversation changes. And once you understand that and you don't put so much pressure on yourself to make it a meeting at 3 o'clock in my office space, you have more flexibility to ask and be comfortable in the spaces you're in.
So what kind of social events do you are you specifically talking about that um can really help people create those connections?
So when you focus your mind only to have a networking event, your intention is to go in there, meet somebody, give a business card. I get my business card, and then at some point, let's have coffee and talk about how business works. But if I'm a person who works in the floral industry, I shouldn't just be going to a networking event for brides and florists. Flowers are needed everywhere. So am I going to events that are, outside in the botanical gardens? Am I going to events where flowers are, appreciated, like the Tulip Festival that's in New York? If I'm a florist and people are admiring flowers, then the easiest way for me to make that connection is to say, you love tulips? Well, at my company, I can get these exclusive tulips from wherever. That's where you connect with people, not just in these places and spaces where there's not a connection to what my purpose is or my gift is. So if my business is about connecting people and I want to do it with women intentionally, then I want to go to events where women are, and that doesn't always mean that I'm going to a business networking event. It may mean that I'm just going to a women's seminar, or that I'm going to a women's retreat, or that I'm going to a women's spa day. There's many other ways that, without you just putting in the word networking, that you can facilitate
Got it.
relationships.
Yeah. And even if it's networking events or these other events that you're talking about, like, what is the mindset that we need to have in order to create these connections, but in a way that, yes, it is strategic. And I absolutely love that idea, but that is also authentic and genuine. I have to be honest, like, I struggle with that a little bit. How do you make these connections, like genuinely make these connections with these people? Like, do you have to be friends with them? Do you first become friends with them and then you do business? Like, how do you do that?
So the first thing to do, always do, is to just walk in authentically yourself, right? So the person that you are, the persona that you have, just be you. And if that means that you say, "Oh, girl, I like your shoes," then that's that. If you stand next to somebody and they order a drink and you happen to like the same drink, that's authentic. That's just who I am. The other part, though, is, do I know who I am so I can verbalize myself? And then, do I know what I want from this room? So the first thing I always ask myself before I sign up for any networking event is, who do I need to meet in my business that will make it profitable, or make it something that, of the goals that I'm trying to attain for this quarter. So if I need to meet somebody who works in wealth management, then my intention is that when I walk into this room and I make these acquaintances, then I sit there and say, you know what? I'm really looking for somebody who works in wealth management. Tell me what you do. And they'll go into their spiel. We'll make a connection. Maybe we won't. And they may say, you know what? I know Jeff. And it was really nice to meet you. Let me see if I have his contact information. I'll forward it on to you. I need to know what purpose I have in that room, because if not, then I'm just walking into these places and spaces trying to make friends. And I don't really have the time for my business to just make acquaintances. My acquaintances have to be conversations where we're propelling our profitability together. How can I make you a part of my network? What do you need? How do you make me a part of your network? And what do I need? And that's when you know that you quantified a networking relationship.
I love that. Okay, so you talk about helping women like stop networking for validation and start networking for leverage. That to me is such a powerful distinction. What do most women get wrong about networking? Are you a business owner, female entrepreneur, and CEO? Do you feel buried in administrative tasks and not working in your zone of genius? Well, if that's you, friend, then listen up. I was there too, but thanks to VY Executive Support, I've handed off all the administrative tasks of my business that are still very important, of course, to a virtual assistant so that I can focus on the things of my business that only I can do and that bring me joy and money. Things like inbox and calendar management, follow up scheduling, travel coordination, and behind the scenes operations are all handled with discretion and proactive attention to detail. The goal is simple: fewer drop balls, more capacity, and a business that feels calm again. If you're ready for right hand support, check the show notes and connect with Veronica at VY Executive Support. Oh, and don't forget to tell her Luz from Unleash Your Light sent you. If you're in midlife and feel a little untethered, like the woman you used to be doesn't quite fit anymore, but the woman you're becoming isn't fully clear yet, I created something especially for you. It's called the Clarity Compass, and this is a simple but powerful tool to help you reconnect with who you are now, what you actually want in this season, and where you're being called next. Because midlife isn't about starting over. It's about realigning. You can download the Clarity Compass today. The link is in the show notes, and together we can start finding your direction today.
Very similar to what you just shared, is that I want to be friends with everybody. Networking is not friendship. Networking is associates. And I think a lot of times, in as women, we look at everything as a friendship. So everything is, are we friends? And if we're friends, I'll help you. Or that's my good girlfriend. Or even if I introduce you as somebody that I know, it's, this is my friend. And they may not be on a friend level. It may just be that they're a business associate or an acquaintance. And so we have to be very mindful as women not to go into a room looking for friendship if we're there for a certain purpose or vision. I'm here to make relationships with such and such, or this particular, you know, type of genre, or this particular person. Or I may even specifically go on a guest list to an event and be like, I want to meet, Oprah. I will make sure that Oprah's in that room. And maybe I don't meet her, but I meet her publicist, or her, you know, uh, her stylist or something to that capacity. I have to be intentional. So I don't the first thing I tell women is stop going into places to make friends because you can make friends anywhere.
So how do you do that without so like how do you connect with somebody without necessarily developing a friendship or something like that?
So commonality doesn't mean that we have to have a friendship. We have things in common which bring us together, and we're in unison on that. We just did that with us. We're both from Queens. We're both moms. We're both businesswomen. So we have three commonalities already, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm coming over your house for dinner tomorrow, but we have things to
Got
discuss.
it.
So when we're in a room of that
Yes.
capacity, especially when it's a full room, you're not going to have 15 minutes to talk to one woman about all these great things, but you will be able to find at least one thing that brings you in common, which moves that person from being a stranger to an associate. And you're bringing up a valid point.
Got it.
Is a lot of times we don't have stages to the relationships that we have. It's all or nothing. That's personal relationships, that's professional relationships. Remember that business is just very similar to personal, where we're dating, we're kind of courting each other. Do we like each other? On a first date, I wouldn't say you are my boyfriend. So on a first date, I'm not going to say you're my friend as far as a female as well. I want to be able to court you, understand you. Do we have friendship the same way? Do we work the same way? If I'm a person who works at night and you're a person that works during the day, we have to find a commonality where we can work together. So my intention is always, if you walk into a room, trying to find a commonality as opposed to build a friendship that also removes that validation. It also removes that stigma of me going, am I good enough? Can I really help you? Is this okay? I can remove all that and just go, we both are moms. We're from Queens. And I'd like to talk to you again. So, let's exchange information. Real light.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you. I feel like I am coming away with so much from this conversation because I think it is real life, right? I don't think this is taught. That's what it is, really. It's not really taught, and we kind of go through our lives wondering or like just seeing what how other people do it, and you're like, okay, well then I'm just gonna become friends, right? Um, so, Leah, you teach something called the Starting Five Relationship Framework. Can you walk us through what that is and how someone listening right now could start building their own intentional power circle?
Okay. So yeah, the starting five is really important, and that's for you. That's not your external network, that's your internal network. So before you start meeting people outside in the world, you have to know that you have the person and the network to sustain your professional business. So you need a starting five. It's kind of like if you were in basketball, you got your Kobe's, you have your Shaqs, you have, all of your top team people who can tell you about yourself, but also sharpen your skills. So you have to have a cheerleader, and that's the person that's always like, you're amazing, you did a great job, you have a podcast, I'm going to post you. That's always your cheerleader. Then you normally have a mentor, somebody who's been further and faster in the industry that you're working in. Please don't go try to get somebody who's in a different industry to tell you how to be a master of yours. So, like, very similar to we're on a podcast situation over here. I don't want you to go find the person who's in charge of waste management and say, how do I become so smart as you? It's not going to align. And the language that you use as a podcaster and in production is not going to be the same as the language that they would use in waste management. So find a mentor that's in your area. The third thing is you're going to find a pusher, and that's me. I'm a person who's going to say, you said you wanted to be at 150,000 by the end of the year. What are we doing to get there? So when you go to me, I think I want to go on vacation. I'm going to go, does vacation get us to $150,000? It doesn't. So I'm not always going to be the easiest person that you go to, but I'm always going to be the realest person that you go to. The next two people are somebody who's in charge of your finances. You want to make sure that they know how to get you the money that you need and sustain it so that you can have growth at the end of your year. Financing people are always important. I know many people go, I don't really have a big business, so I can use, spreadsheets. Yes, you can, but always make sure you have some resource, especially in business, to help you with your taxes and your allocations and your write-offs. So make sure that you have somebody who works in finance. And the last person is just the person who's probably closest to you in your family. It's normally a friend. It's normally that person. And that's your confidant. That's the person that you can really get real with. Like, I don't really want to do this today. I can't do this today. I'm having a really hard time. That confidant is the person that's going to kind of be your vault and they're going to take this journey and walk with you. They're the safest place where you can put your disappointments, and they're the safest place where you can put your failures without feeling judged. And those starting five will encourage you to be the person that you need to be. The great part about it is the cheerleader is always, every time she walks in a room, she's going to go, "Do you know Luce? Do you know Luce? She has a podcast. Do you know she's amazing?" And then that will also build your network. So we start with your starting
Yeah.
five, and you have these great people around you to kind of comfort you in this entrepreneurial journey. And as that happens, the starting five gives you five more. And the starting five gives you that five gives you another five. And what you end up with is a network based off of who you say you are, who you show up as, and who you hope to be. And that's where that kind of framework comes from. But it really starts with you.
I love that. I think we all need that. Regardless of our whether we're in business or not, I think we need those five different people in our lives because regardless, we're always improving and like going after some type of goal, right? So a lot of women, especially in midlife, are rebuilding careers, businesses, or identities, right? And may feel intimidated walking into rooms where they don't know anyone. What advice would you give them so that they can confidently show up and build meaningful relationships?
So confidence doesn't come from the room, it comes from you. And so even if you have to, put on your playlist before you walk in that room, even if you have to have good affirming conversation with you, "I got this. I'm not going to be, whatever. I'm the greatest person in this room. I have something to share." Confidence is something that you can water and grow inside yourself. And to be honest with you, nobody can help you with it. It's tools. There's a toolkit. There's people who can say, do this for confidence or do that. But it really comes from how I see myself and how I'm seen by others. So if you want to walk into a room and just know that
Yeah.
you're meant to be in that room, first start with the fact that if you are going into a networking room or a place of business, you've already RSVP'd. So they already know your name. That's not an unexpected thing. They're waiting for you to check in. So if you're waiting for me, then I'm here to show up and present myself. If the fact of the matter is I'm walking into somewhere blind and I don't know anybody, my first task is to make that kind of commonality with someone. "Hey, I'm waiting to check in." "Me too." "What's your name again?" And that just starts it. And once you know one person, as women, we gravitate towards each other. And whether it's the shoes or the earrings, or "I like your glasses," or "What did you order to drink?" or "Where do you get your hair done?" you end up with this kind of circle of friends at the end of an event, and it's kind of like your mini squad of people that you want to stay in touch with, possibly going forward, or maybe just a friendly hello and I'll see you at the next one.
So, Leah, on this podcast, we talk a lot about unleashing your light, right? Your gift, stepping into who you truly are and owning your voice. So, what does unleashing your light mean to you at this stage of your life and business?
So the amazing part about this, the whole entire thing is, when I met you and you offered me this beautiful opportunity, I didn't know the name of your podcast. I knew you. And so when I was given a formal introduction and I saw that that was the name, that has been my word of the year for the past 3 years, is that my purpose is to bring light to darkness. And I do that
Oh,
in
I love
in the
that.
places that I'm supposed to be seen in. And I've said this a few times, so this is not new. And so when I saw that, it just reminded me of the fact that our light is internal, and it's a part of who we really are and why we do the work that we do. Everybody's light is a little different. Everybody shines a little differently, but it really makes the difference. So when you explain to me what my light is as a person now, it's service. My first line of anything right now is service. How do I serve, and how do I stand in a place for women who need to be served? We're not very difficult to serve, but we normally don't know what we want. And so, as a strategist, my job is to have good conversation so I can give you a little light on your journey. I said to a woman yesterday, "Let me be a GPS. Let me, light the way for you a little bit." So, as long as I continue to walk in that path, I got a lot more behind me than I do have left going forward in front of me. And so, if I can give them a little light on their journey and just impart what I know, then I know that when I'm done, I'll have done my service.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leah. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. I mean, like, I I'm almost at a loss of words to be honest, because I just feel like every single time that I do an interview, I just love to be surprised and see how God just brings people together and brings people to this podcast. And it's for me, my goal too is to highlight people like you because it's important. Right? Like we have this light inside, like you said, and it is really the gift that we are giving others. So thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you for your
Okay.
obedience. I mean, it's not easy to give people a platform to stand on and to kind of allow them to be in the light. So thank you for your obedience to being this platform, to having women have a voice in places and spaces where we're not really heard. It's
Yep.
powerful, and I appreciate you very much for your dedication.
Oh, thank you so much, Leah. It was amazing having you on.
You
Take
too. I'm
care.
glad to see you.